Hello and welcome to our channel. In this video, we'll be discussing the impact of global trade on developing countries. We'll explore the positive and negative effects of global trade, the challenges that developing countries face, and the solutions that can be implemented to mitigate those challenges. We'll also look at the future of global trade and how it will impact developing countries. So, if you're interested in learning more about global trade and its impact on developing countries, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Global trade refers to the exchange of goods, services, and capital across international borders. It is an integral part of the global economy and has a significant impact on both developed and developing countries. Developing countries, in particular, have increasingly become active participants in global trade in recent years. Global trade has the potential to bring about numerous benefits, including increased economic growth, job creation, and access to new markets. However, it also has its challenges, and its negative impacts on developing countries cannot be ignored. In this context, this article will explore the impact of global trade on developing countries by examining its positive and negative effects, challenges faced by developing countries, and potential solutions to mitigate the negative impacts. Developing countries have become increasingly active participants in global trade in recent years. This is largely due to the liberalization of trade policies and the reduction of trade barriers, which have made it easier for developing countries to participate in global trade. Developing countries have also been able to capitalize on their comparative advantages, such as low labor costs and abundant natural resources, to produce and export goods and services. However, the extent of developing countries' participation in global trade varies widely depending on a variety of factors such as their level of development, their institutional framework, and the types of goods and services traded. Some developing countries have been able to leverage their advantages to become major players in global trade, while others have struggled to compete and have remained on the margins of the global economy. One of the key challenges faced by developing countries in their participation in global trade is the lack of access to technology, infrastructure, and capital. Developed countries often have higher levels of technology, better infrastructure, and greater access to capital, which makes it difficult for developing countries to compete on an equal footing. As a result, many developing countries have remained dependent on the export of raw materials and have struggled to move up the value chain. Another challenge faced by developing countries is the uneven distribution of the benefits of global trade. While global trade has brought about significant economic growth and development, the benefits have not been evenly distributed. Some segments of society have benefited more than others, leading to increased inequality and social tensions. In order to address these challenges and promote greater participation by developing countries in global trade, a number of solutions have been proposed. One of the key solutions is to provide support for developing countries to upgrade their technological capabilities, improve their infrastructure, and increase access to capital. This can help to increase their competitiveness and reduce their dependence on raw material exports. Another solution is to promote greater regional integration and cooperation. By working together, developing countries can leverage their advantages and increase their bargaining power in the global economy. Regional integration can also help to reduce trade barriers and promote the free flow of goods and services, which can lead to increased trade and economic growth. In conclusion, developing countries have become important participants in global trade in recent years, but their level of participation and the benefits they derive from global trade vary widely. In order to promote greater participation by developing countries in global trade, it is important to address the challenges they face, including the lack of access to technology, infrastructure, and capital, and the uneven distribution of the benefits of global trade. By doing so, global trade can become a powerful tool for promoting economic growth and development in developing countries. Global trade has brought about numerous positive impacts on developing countries, contributing to their economic growth and development. Some of the key positive impacts of global trade on developing countries include increased economic growth. Global trade has been a major driver of economic growth in developing countries. By participating in global trade, developing countries have been able to tap into new markets and expand their customer base. This has led to increased production and sales, which in turn has led to increased economic growth and development. Developing countries have also been able to take advantage of their comparative advantages, such as low labor costs and abundant natural resources, to produce and export goods and services. Job creation. Global trade has also led to job creation in developing countries. As developing countries have increased their participation in global trade, new industries have emerged, leading to the creation of new jobs. In particular, labor-intensive industries such as textiles, apparel, and footwear have seen significant growth in developing countries. This has helped to reduce poverty and increase living standards. Access to new markets. Global trade has enabled developing countries to access new markets, providing opportunities for diversification and increased competitiveness. By exporting to different markets, developing countries are able to spread their risks and reduce their dependence on any single market. This has led to greater market integration and specialization, which has helped to increase productivity and reduce costs. Technology transfer. Global trade has also facilitated the transfer of technology from developed countries to developing countries. As developed countries have exported goods and services to developing countries, they have brought with them new technologies and knowledge that can be used to improve the productivity and efficiency of developing countries' industries. Improved standards of living. Global trade has also contributed to improved standards of living in developing countries. As economic growth has increased and new jobs have been created, living standards have improved. Developing countries have been able to invest in infrastructure, education, and healthcare, which has led to improvements in the quality of life for their citizens. Global trade has brought about numerous positive impacts on developing countries, contributing to their economic growth and development. Increased economic growth, job creation, access to new markets, technology transfer, and improved standards of living are just some of the benefits that developing countries have derived from global trade. While there are also challenges and negative impacts of global trade, it is clear that the positive impacts of global trade on developing countries are significant and cannot be ignored. While global trade has brought about numerous positive impacts on developing countries, there are also negative impacts that must be taken into account. Some of the key negative impacts of global trade on developing countries include: dependency on exports. Developing countries that rely heavily on exports are vulnerable to changes in global market conditions. For example, a decline in demand for a particular commodity can lead to a significant reduction in export earnings, which can have a negative impact on the economy. This dependence on exports can also lead to a lack of diversification in the economy, which can be a barrier to long-term economic growth. Unequal distribution of benefits. The benefits of global trade are often not distributed evenly within a country. While some segments of society benefit from increased economic growth and job creation, others may be left behind. This can lead to increased inequality, social tensions, and even political instability. Environmental degradation. The growth in global trade has also contributed to environmental degradation in developing countries. As developing countries have sought to increase their exports, they have often relied on the exploitation of natural resources, which can lead to deforestation, soil erosion, and other forms of environmental degradation. In addition, the production of goods for export can lead to increased greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to climate change. Labor exploitation. The growth in global trade has also contributed to labor exploitation in some developing countries. In particular, the growth of the garment industry in developing countries has been accompanied by poor working conditions, low wages, and long working hours. This has led to concerns about the exploitation of workers in developing countries. Vulnerability to external shocks. Developing countries that rely heavily on global trade are vulnerable to external shocks such as changes in exchange rates, natural disasters, and changes in global demand. These external shocks can have a significant impact on the economy, leading to increased unemployment, reduced economic growth, and even recession. While global trade has brought about numerous positive impacts on developing countries, there are also negative impacts that must be taken into account. The dependence on exports, unequal distribution of benefits, environmental degradation, labor exploitation, and vulnerability to external shocks are just some of the negative impacts that developing countries may face as a result of their participation in global trade. In conclusion, global trade has both positive and negative impacts on developing countries. While it can bring economic benefits, such as increased trade and investment, it can also create new challenges, such as increased economic inequality and environmental degradation. However, by addressing these challenges through strategies such as diversification, sustainable development, and fair trade policies, it is possible to mitigate the negative impacts of global trade and promote economic growth and development in developing countries. As we look to the future of global trade in developing countries, it will be important to continue to work together to promote sustainable, inclusive, and equitable trade policies that benefit all countries. By doing so, we can create a more prosperous and sustainable global economy that benefits everyone, regardless of their level of development. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content on global trade and other related topics. We appreciate your support and feedback, so please leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest videos. Thank you again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.